Proceed, always a pleasure. Sorry.
Exactly. All right.
Okay, you're good to go.
We're good. All right, here comes Chris. So we got it from there's Walker. All right. Let's do the call to order. Let's kick things off. with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Chris. Yeah, maybe I made you the last time.
You did make like the last two times I've been here. So good at it.
All right,
It's really my turn again.
I'll make 8 of them.
Thank you.
All right, here we go.
It's like me and Chris. Ready to begin?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent.
Oh, they left closed session.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, first let me just do the roll call. That gave the president, Michael Talby. Present. Chris Kanzler,
Present.
Kate Johnson,
Here.
Daniel Wang. Dr. Quesada, you're gonna be about 15 minutes
He
late.
said he'd be here between 6 and 6:50.
Okay, great. Coach McDougal is in Yosemite. Kristen. Walker. You hear us? Well, you're very quiet, just so you know. Devin.
Here.
Colonel Watts. Here. No L or Jonah because they're in Yosemite.
Correct.
Got it. All right. Welcome everybody to the May 17th board meeting. Our agenda reflects last month's agenda. We went right into closed session, which ultimately was a great thing because we reached a positive outcome on the minimum days, but you no longer need to do that. So we're going to jump right into public comment. Do you have any speaker slips?
Yep. I have two. Ms. Jane.
Sorry, this is my first in-person meeting. Should I stand anywhere?
Wherever you're coming.
Okay. Stand here. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes and we cannot comment on what you have to say. Just so everybody knows that. All right. Okay.
Hi, my name is Tammy. I have a 6th grader who has been here since kindergarten, and I have a kindergartner. I love OTA. I have spent countless hours here volunteering in the classrooms and on the field, planting vegetables in the planter boxes to painting cabinets in the teacher's lunchroom. I have withstood the transition of 3 different principals, Mr. Phillips is number 4, and endured the uncertainty of the remote learning during the pandemic. Yet this year, by far for me, has been the hardest year to be a parent at OTA. This year, as a parent, I have felt marginalized and vilified, and I am not alone. I have listened to the stories of my friends who have been banned from volunteering in their children's classrooms, who have been escorted up the stairs even though they know the way, and recently been denied the ability to chaperone a field trip because they were a few minutes late. With all that, I am still being asked to purchase items on teachers' wish list, donate to the jogathon and to the gala, which I have done and I will continue to do. But it is hard knowing that while my wallet is always welcomed, Monday through Thursday, I am deemed too dangerous to walk through the gates and must wave goodbye to my kindergartner through the fence. It's been a long year, but please know that this is in no way meant to be an anti-teacher or anti-staff statement. There are some amazing teachers and staff here. Shout out to the middle school teachers, Mr. Watts, Mrs. Fernandez, and Miss Miller, Miss Little, Mrs. I, Mrs. R, Mr. Pablo, Miss Corey, Miss Jessica, and many others. I really could go on and on. We have simply phenomenal staff. But there has been a clear cultural shift at OTA, and it is driving people away. Many of my friends have already left or have decided that their children will not return next year. I'm tired of saying goodbye, but I choose to stay. I choose for my children to stay because I have not completely lost hope that we can find our way again. How exactly to fix it, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that before you can fix anything, you have to first acknowledge that there is a problem. I also know that OTA cannot and will not survive without the support of parents. As we march towards a new school year, I sincerely hope that the parent surveys are considered and changes can be made that can help bring back the joy I used to feel being a parent at OTA. Thank you for listening and thank you for the privilege of your time.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Yeah, I have. My, covering, sorry.
Also, I'm surprised, shockingly, I'm afraid of public speaking, so I'm gonna sit here and read what I need to read. For the people who do not know me, my name is Maya. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. My oldest graduated from OTA last year, and my youngest is in 6th grade. At the start of this school year, I was told that a group of moms were being labeled as mafia, quote unquote. Why? I asked. The answer was because we asked too many questions. What questions are we asking? We asked, why change the schedule for middle school? Why is there no honor roll? Why is the PBL being done the way it is? There are so many whys. I cannot cover it in 3 minutes. What we had was working perfectly. Why reinvent the wheel? We keep asking. The main reason we want to go back is because the kids who graduated in the past are doing amazing. Our amazing, wonderful middle school teachers push them to the max. These kids got to high school, and when you ask them how is high school, they say, oh, OTA was much harder than high school. Let me repeat that, you guys. They are saying OTA is harder than a freshman high school. Let's just think about that for a minute. Mr. Watts, Ms. Church, and Mrs. Miller, thank you for all that you did and still doing for our kids. That is pushing them to the max. I got this email last week and I thought I want to share it with you guys. Oh my God, why am I shaking?
Because it's hard. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I might not have enough for everybody.
This email told me that my son is going to, sorry, I have that my son is going to get an award next week. I don't know what it is, but I know getting an award for the first year in high school, that's a huge accomplishment. Between him and the other 3 kids who are in Mission Bay, they're getting awards. My son, who attended small school since kinder, is doing great at high school because of what OTA built in him and his friends. They shined between 300 plus students. I'm sure if you ask another friends from who went to other high school, they're still also doing amazing. How amazing when a principal of a high school comes to you and say, we want to build a partnership with OTA kids. And I ask him, why, Dr. Brown? He's like, because these 4 kids are amazing. They are leaders, they are smart, and they're advanced, and we would love to have OTA kids in there. This is a proud moment for the teachers, for the board, for the administration, and for the parents when principal comes and say, we want OTA kids to come to our high school. That being said, if these invested moms pushing for bringing back what we had and what was working, then let me introduce you to a proud member of the Mafia Mom. That would be me. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? I can do a later slip if you need to.
All right, thank you.
I just got a text message from Walker that he can't hear in person.
All right, well, we'll keep working on that. Making things rolling. Board member comments? Hear me, Walker? Dave Walker's waiting to have some knowledge on board member comments. So you have there is. I hear you. There we go.
We
Yeah.
can hear you. Can you hear us?
You're at that? Give him a thumbs up. Is that the only mic or is there another mic? Yeah. Is there anybody tell people to hear us on mine? Any? No, online. Yeah, it's just the Zoom. All right,
The Zoom or YouTube? The online is.
the YouTube.
Got it.
All right, I'll just say, in terms of board comments, thank you guys for your passion. Thanks parents always for being involved, for wanting what's best for the school. Tonight, we're gonna hear some of the survey results. That was part of the intent here was, you know, we do have a new administration and a lot of new staff, but here we are almost a year in, and I think we're starting to find our rhythm. But having Mr. C and that legacy knowledge, the ability to engage with our community, kind of figure out best practices, what we can build towards next year. It's all gonna hopefully coalesce and lead to some actionable things that we can implement next year. And that is also tied into the strategic plan. So it's not just focused on next fall, but then a couple of years out. And I know we've had this issue with the building kind of on everybody's mind for so long, and that is still the biggest domino by far that we need to figure out and have that fall into place. But we're starting to look forward and figure out how we're going to be successful in the short term and then the next couple of years and then beyond. So hopefully the information that we get tonight will be a springboard for that effort. But we hear you, we're all on the same page, we got to stick together. And that it's really crucial for us as a community to stay connected as we're trying to figure this thing out. So I think that's it for now. I mean, on that note, this is our May meeting. We have one more meeting for this administration, this group on the board, and there's a lot of turnover that's going to be happening. And we need parents that are engaged, that are sitting here, because it's tough. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of administration, red tape, whatever else you want to call it, that we have to navigate that makes it hard to make these things happen as quickly as we want. But we need engagement. So I'm encouraging everybody to throw your hat in the ring. If you have the time, it's maybe an hour a week, maybe more, depending on what role you want to take within the board. But just know, I was hoping Daniel was going to be here, because we're going to get the election process really going in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to have a whole new board come June. But I encourage folks to tap people on the shoulder and get involved. All right, that being said, unless anybody has anything else to add, we're going to jump into reports and presentations. Student report, short and sweet. Hopefully they're having a great time. Stand by. And now Josh, the financial report. Ready for us.
So I don't have, there wasn't enough packets, but I think you guys should have a document in there. It should say Old Town Academy on the top left, CSMC on the right. It's got a bunch of numbers on there.
See about halfway through the big packet. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's halfway in the actual meeting agenda. Right. Right after the. Got it. Yeah. Right after the- Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it looks like everyone's got it. Okay, so what we're going over today is the two things. Update the board on where, after meeting with the school and looking at the financials as of April, where we think the school might end this year, 22-23, and also the preliminary budget for next year, 23-24. No voting or decision today, but the next meeting we'll need to finalize and come to some agreement of what we want to use for mostly the budget next year that eventually we'll have to send to the district. So presenting this today, maybe this, you know, what, depending on what you guys want, how you guys want to handle it, but it might be a good opportunity to kind of give your input or give some direction for the school on what you guys want to do with the current state of the proposed budget. So on that front page, you'll see the front page is the high level summary. The 2 pages behind that is a itemized breakdown of the high level summary. I'm just gonna talk about the high level summary, but if you see something in the itemized breakdown, we can talk about that. So on that high level summary, the first thing that I just wanted to bring to your attention is the 22-23 estimated actual. So the school hit, the school's ADA is officially 209, so that was short of the original budgeted amount. So after we sorted through all the revenue and then we sorted through the expenses as of April, we're kind of projecting the school to be at around a deficit this year of about $80,000. Now, that is just that is a made up number because it's impossible to predict every single penny that's going to come in and out of here over the next 2 months. But the main point is we do think it's somewhere it would be negative. It could change, maybe you don't spend a single dollar from here on out until June 30th and you end up saving money and it's not 80,000. But as of right now, from this high level, based off the ADA and all the revenue numbers, you're probably looking at some sort of deficit. So that's the estimated actuals. Any questions on the estimated actuals before I get to the preliminary budget?
Did you break out the food services? That's in the detail, right? Not in what you have here?
Correct. It would be on the 3rd page, about the middle of the 3rd page, 4,700, the food services and food supplies.
Thank you. Got it.
Any other thoughts on the estimated actuals?
Forget, does the revenue include any grants?
Yes, so yeah, we went through, I met with the school team and we tried to get all the grants together. Yeah, so we're actually had, if you look at the second page, you'll see towards the bottom, there's a line item that says foundation grants / donations. So we put in $787,000 worth. And then you also have the other local revenue. So that's kind of like.
Sorry, who was talking? I was trying to listen to you when Krishna was asking me something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. And then there's also that other local revenue. That's kind of like your foundation money. We have $86,000 in there budgeted. So those 2 pieces.
So the 80,000 that we're deficit is beyond the 780.
Correct. I will move to the preliminary budget if.
Do we have any idea how much the grants this year, like what's that comparable to like the years previous? Is that about what we do or is that?
No, this is very high. Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I don't know what to say with
Right.
the previous ones, but $700,000 is
Quite high.
quite high. Okay, so moving to the next thing. So obviously, there's not much you can control about the estimated actuals. I mean, maybe spending goes down, and like I said, the negative 80,000 gets better. Who knows? But this is like if the board does have impact to help guide the school, this would be the area for next year. So we got together and tried to put together the 23-24 budget. That's the column on the far right. And so the school, we started with an enrollment of 255, budgeting an ADA of 240. So if you see the variance column on the right, that's the difference between this year and next year. So 255, 240, those are the enrollment ADA numbers. Obviously, if you don't hit those numbers, then obviously a lot of these revenue numbers would be off. So those are the key numbers that you want to hit. We did go through and search through all the grant stuff. And going through, we also expense wise, we tried to, I mean, I think Deb or Mr. Phillips is going to go through and maybe propose some salary type things. So we did make some salary adjustments to account for various minimum wage adjustments and so forth. So we tried to account for that, and we just kind of went through all the expenses and tried to figure out what next year might be, and relatively conservative amount. And with all those things being said, I think the point that we're currently at is a deficit for next year's budget, about $165,000. If you see that at the bottom right, and that's kind of where we're currently at. Obviously, we could sort through some things a little bit more and discuss things, or any direction that you guys have, we can tweak things. But that's kind of where we stand, and it was very similar place kind of the last time we met.
And Josh, that doesn't include any of the city grants we have.
Correct, yeah, and so just so everyone's aware, there are some state grants that are out there that are accessible, for example, an arts and music grant. Whether or not you can use that to fund some of your current things, or you're gonna use that to fund new things. If you use it to fund new things, it's not gonna help this bottom line, because I also gotta increase the expenses. If you can use that to maybe fund some current thing or things that are on the budgeted expenses, then that would help the bottom line. There's also a learning recovery grant that it's designed to kind of give more opportunities to students and tutoring and those types of things. That also is available, and it's also not on here, but the same type of things apply as with the arts and music grant that I mentioned.
And the arts and music grant is pretty, we can use it for a lot.
Sure, yeah,
And it's roughly this amount, it's just like.
right. So this is mostly for you. The governor had
Pull some back.
there's probably gonna be a 25 to 30% cutoff.
That's why I didn't get it.
Yeah,
This year. 'Cause
correct.
we want to owe next year.
right.
Hey, Josh, I apologize if I missed this, but the local revenue, why is that decreasing by 200,000?
Yeah, so if you look at the second page, that revenue input with the detail is. You'll see, and you look at the local revenue category. Do you see how it says in the estimated actuals, 879,792? It's on the very bottom. And then the budgeted is 663,986.
Yeah.
And so there's that variance that you're talking about. So if you look at that foundations and donations grant, there's a large piece of it won't be able to, I guess it gets used up next year.
Wait, what do you mean?
Not used up, that's a bad. Sorry,
Explain more.
so based off when we went through all the grants, a portion of it was supposed to be recognized this year, and the remaining portion is gonna be recognized next year. It just so happens the way that the numbers work, this year had more grants recognized than next year.
So like one example of that is the grant I wrote for like $250,000. It's all due on this year, even though it's supposed to be for next year and the following year. From a financial standpoint, it's only in the.
Right, so we're our deficit for next year based on that, because we had to use it this year.
We haven't used it.
Right, we got the revenue that we recognize this. We don't get another 200,000 revenue next year, so it'll look at like a deficit for next year because we had to recognize all of it this year, but the cash will come in next year. This year, next year, and the third year, three.
Thanks, that was a better explanation.
We gotta get some more grant. And what would be other state revenue?
So the other state revenue, you're just kind of asking what else is.
Well, there was one under just other, that's 76,000 this year, and it's 0 next year.
76,000.
85, 90.
The other state.
Oh, yes, I see that. You know what that is? That is. No, unfortunately, off the top of my head, I'm blanking.
All right. Just. That was all. Okay. But this takes into account any potential adjustments on salaries, so.
I didn't know that until yesterday's meeting, but I think that's on the ring.
Still trying to think, but I don't think I can
Find another $75,000.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't think of it at the moment, sorry.
Any other items you want to highlight?
Why is just from my own understanding, why is ELOC negative under the 22, 23, and then 50,000 under the 22?
Okay, yeah, so this one, so this is one of those that is a offset, meaning like they're giving you $50,000, but it has to be spent. Right now, is working with the school, it looks like, you have expenses that are going to happen, but they haven't been paid yet. So just the safest thing to have done was not recognize the revenue. So, you know, whatever, if it turns out come June 30th, it's gonna be 30 grand, you're gonna see 30 grand in revenue there. The 50 grand that you're seeing next year is what you're, allocated. The assumption is you're gonna spend it. There is a budgeted amount in expense wise for it in there.
I think I ask this every time, but the ADA per. The cost for ADA or revenue associated with that is like 7,000, 11,000.
Yeah, 11, but it is going up. So it's going up like 8%. So it's getting, I mean, it depends, every single grade, it depends on every single the grade level. You know, your kindergartens, first grade, second grade, third grade get the most, fourth and fifth, sixth, not so much, 7, 8 less. And so I would say on average, you could go with like 12 grand.
Okay.
11,
So
12.
if we end up with the same ADA 209, which we're all hoping we don't, that'd be 30 times 12, so it'd be another, what, 360?
Sure, yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
Okay. So we could be looking at a $500,000 hole if our baseline was where we are.
Sure, yeah.
Anything else you wanted to hit? This is just a preliminary look at the budget. We're gonna talk more and close about. You know, any levers we can pull and we'll vote on it next meeting.
You bring the budget next meeting?
Yeah, I'll bring it on like this pretty much same format. It'll go on a district template, which I'll also have ready, and then you'll approve it, and then it'll get sent to the district.
I was gonna want to miss that one because we've never approved a budget that was negative in its way.
Okay, I was down.
You weren't here at the June meeting last year?
It was a lot closer.
All right. Oh.
Got any other questions?
Yeah, quick one. Since the meeting yesterday, has there been any update on what the reimbursement is planning to look like?
Sorry.
No, I mean, I didn't think it would be 24 hours, but
Yeah, no, but that's definitely something we're gonna.
What is it?
yeah, so this is for the lunches, the mandatory lunches. There is reimbursement, but so far my understanding is our reimbursement has been very low. And we understand that it's going to be increased, but what we don't understand is how much it's going to be increased. And so, in that lag several months behind, so if it goes up a reasonable amount, and we start getting that in and catch it back up and we get our 4 or 5 months of revenue reimbursement, that's a potential.
Game changer.
Well,
Could be.
yeah, it would potentially help us out a bit.
So it's like 150,000 from an expense standpoint, but then we just get some chunk of that back.
Right, we've only budgeted to be reimbursed 20,000 for the year. And we're hoping it's gonna be a lot closer to that, even on a monthly basis, although our expense is only like 15K a month, so we're not gonna get more than 15.
Hope to be 10, 15K a month
Right,
reimbursement.
right. And that's not like, it would be mean, especially on, the current year's 80,000 deficit and next year's 160. Next year's only 20,000 is budgeted for reimbursement.
And we're in May, is there a reason we don't know about that?
It lags like Peter said, like 3 or 4 months behind in our reimbursement.
Yeah, and this is really your first year applying for it too. So-
We're also going through our first year audit review, which they did last week. So there's just like a lot of ups and downs and maneuvering that we have to do. Going into next year, we should be okay with the reimbursement per meal, like at the full cost, if we can get all of the proper paperwork in right at the beginning of the year. But because we were brought on so late in the year, we missed those first 2 months of the deadline. So that's why this year is just like all over the place.
Any other questions? No? Anything else you wanted to highlight, Josh?
I think that is it. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Teacher liaison report, Turner.
Yes, so I am going to present the, local people accountability plan, the LCAP, this evening, and it is an action item. There were copies of, everyone got a copy of the plan. This is, year 2 of our 3-year, I'm sorry, yes, year 2 of our 3-year plan for our, something every school does. Last year, when this video was here, I kind of helped her out with it and became a little more familiar with it. So kind of taking the lead on everybody here. And this, I was hoping everybody would get a chance to review it. I guess it got sent out because I could go through every page. It's pretty long, but it is something that I'm hoping we can vote on tonight to approve. But I can go through the highlights with everyone if that's the best approach. I'm not sure. I think last year I kind of did the same thing. But the first part is it's called the budget overview for parents. The graph that you see there on page 2 is not the greatest, but if you flip over to page 3, it's a little bit better. Our total budgeted general funds, 3,702,918, and then the funds for the LCAP next to it, 2,887,268. I got these numbers from LCFF funds from Josh, and we use what is it, DTS, and I basically plug in those numbers in, and this is where we generate this graph from. So that's where that comes from. The first section is kind of a rundown of our school, our general population and everything that, and then I'm looking at page 5 here. General information about Old Town Academy, our population and sorts. And we have, as I said, this is the second year of this is the second of the.
This is year 2.
This is year 2.
Sorry, well, this is year 3, right?
Yes.
We're starting next year.
So it's a 3-year plan. We're going to be starting a new one next year, and kind of looking forward to that instead of kind of picking up in the middle where we can create goals, because the point of the LCAP is to, it's a tool for agencies to set goals, plan actions, and sort of leverage our resources to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. And the reason that I'm excited to start fresh is because we can sort of target more of our goals, get more involvement from all our educational partners to set their goals. But tonight, I just want to go over everything that we're looking at here. So our first goal is on page 11. And the goals that I wrote were broken down into the first goal, conditions of learning, and then goals 2 and 3. Goal 2 is for ELA, our testing in ELA, and then goal 3 is for math and STEM. And the final goal 4 deals with climate. So I'm just doing a general overview here. And then for each goal, we, kind of each year we have our outcomes. I use DataQuest, California School Dashboard for our math and ELA goals to see how we're doing, and sort of reflect on how the goals are we doing what we set out to do. Are we spending money on meeting the needs of our special groups, our EL students, things of that nature. So I'll take questions. All right. I don't know if I'm.
And so this gets submitted to,
It goes to the state.
and when's the deadline to submit?
Generally, good practice is to approve it in May. Last year, we were a little bit late in doing so.
And the goals are, we think they're static over time, so you can kind of measure year one. out.
Exactly, yeah, so the goals, last year, some of the goals were adjusted, and that's reflected in the report. We added a fourth goal for school climate, but in general, most of the goals are going to along these lines with meeting our testing goals.
Do we meet all of our goals?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, the great thing is that we just got state testing in, so I've had a lot of data to look at and see how we were doing with our state testing, and you can see for our first goal, I'm sorry, goal 2, we're on 21. You can see what our baseline goal was for, this is measuring for ELA. We did get very close to meeting or exceeding our goals. We actually exceeded actually page 16 for ELA. ELA, we exceeded our baseline goal as a school. So in general, and these are reflected in every goal has a reflection how we met our goals, and we are meeting our goals.
We talk about the climate, like the school climate, is it for the culture and respect for the virtues, or what is that?
Yeah, so it's school climate. I'll go over to that goal. Go ahead and read the goal. Climate engagement, we want to maximize opportunities for engagement in schools' mission vision to support a positive school climate. I would say, if I'm sitting here, I think this is a goal that we're still definitely working on. We've been kind of down this road already talking about this tonight. Definitely with the school survey, this is something we said we were going to do at a great parent survey. So we are trying to get engagement from all educational partners. So I think in that regard, we have our involvement, we had teacher surveys. One area I'd like to get a little bit more of is student surveys. We do have our representatives, and we have principals advisory committee to sort of get feedback from the students. But I think that would be one area of improvement.
I'm hopeful too, that these minimum days, the I forget what it's called, interventions, or getting that collaboration between the teachers will help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think
Correct.
that's going to be huge for goal 4 is getting that time for meeting with that goal.
All right, does anybody have any other questions in there? I'm gonna keep things rolling. Turner, did you have anything else you wanted to hit in the teacher report?
Well, for yourself.
A lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that that I got you guys a little bit earlier to look at, because it's really hard to go over in a lot of detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna keep things rolling here. Office Administrator Report, Natalie.
So I have some re-enrollment numbers, some updated re-enrollment numbers, some updated new student enrollment numbers, and then the amounts still in our wait list. So since the last report, I know I mentioned that we had to follow up with some of our families that had trouble with the re-enrollments. So I have some current numbers. For kindergarten, we have all 4 of our TKs returning as kindergartners. In first grade, we have all of our returning kindergartners coming into first grade, so that's 19. In second grade, going into our first graders going into second grader, all current students are returning. The same with all of our second graders going into third grade. So
Can you give me the numbers now? Sorry.
so
Second.
second is 20,
That's going into second.
going into
Thank
second.
you.
They're rising, yeah.
All of our current second graders are returning, going into third, so that's 28.
Wow.
We are losing one third grader going into fourth, so we're going from 22 to 21. All current fourth graders are returning, so that's 23 going into fifth. We're going down 3 students in 5th grade into 6th grade, so we'll be at 20 going into next year. We're down 4 students from 6th grade going to 7th grade. So we'll have 23 7th graders. And we're down 2 going into 8th grade. So we'll have 19 8th graders. So we have a total of 10 families that are not returning.
And then with the lottery, the people who have accepted,
So for those that have accepted from the lottery, there's been quite a bit of shifts. So we are at 14 for kinder, 9 in 1st grade, 9 in 2nd, 0 in 3rd, 6 in 4th, 5 in 5th, 8 in 6th, 4 in 7th, and 4 in 8th grade. So those are all incoming new students. We do have offers out for all of the open seats. And after those offers expire, we have 20 students that are still waitlisted for kinder, 6 waitlisters in 1st, 4 in 2nd, 18 in 3rd, 10 in 4th, 12 in 5th, 18 in 6th, 7 in 7th, and 0 in 8th.
so let's talk about kindergarten for a second.
Mhm.
What's the number of kids max that we put in that class?
So max for each class is 30.
Okay, so we currently have 18 with the rising TK plus the 14 accepted.
Correct.
Then we have offers out to 12 different families, plus another 20 on the wait list currently.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess anecdotally, do you have a sense of how we compare to previous years?
Previous years were pretty low in the wait list numbers already. Compared to the previous.
All right, any other questions?
I just have a couple other things. to
Yeah,
say.
go for it.
Just a couple quick updates from the audits last week. We had the California Department of Education State Auditor out here to observe our meals for both breakfast and lunch. They were here mostly just to observe how we were doing serving the meals and making sure all of our students were getting compliant meals. So in order for us to be even reimbursed for partial reimbursement, all students are supposed to take at least 3 components of the meal. So that was the first kind of step hurdle that we had to get over. They're going to be returning at the end of the month, and then we have a final kind of administrative review in June for that. And then we also had the district site visit last week as well, and they were here on Thursday. They will present the report and Devin will go over that as well. But as far as things like the attendance reporting, personnel files and our cal pads, those were all still compliant with us.
So on the meal thing, each student's supposed to take 3 parts of what they serve. How many parts of the meal do they say for 5 parts?
They have to take 3.
Every student's supposed to be taking 3.
Yeah, so if you may have heard from your kids that day that they were being recorded or they were, showing their meal to a camera, that's essentially, they weren't being recorded. There was a person that was being zoomed in, and each student in each grade literally had to take pick out their plate, show the camera, and I just from start to finish. And the auditor literally counted each component.
We didn't have 100% compliance with taking three things, I'm guessing.
No, that actually went fairly well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once we talk, we came to that. No, I've heard Isla talk about like, what he.
Well, there's like a box you can put
There
if
is
you
a
don't want it,
box.
once you get past it.
So yeah, so we let the kids know that they have to take their meal, but there is a share box so that if they don't want anything, other kids that maybe like that portion of the meal can go and grab it. That way, for compliance reasons, we've at least checked off the box that they've received their meal.
Do we have any idea how many kids normally are just not taking the lunches? So they've signed up, but they're just not taking them.
We have about, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around 40 kids that are signed up that aren't taking the meals.
And we're not allowed to reach out to them and say, hey, can you disenroll if you're not gonna take lunch? Is that,
We can, and we've sent emails, and so we've taken those kids off the meal.
if they responded and
If
said,
they've responded.
we're not doing that?
Yeah.
So are we,
There's just such a massive amount of food waste.
It is, and then also we have a big problem with some kids just eating once or twice a week, but they've signed up for all days, because you can't sign up for particular days, you either have to take it or leave it.
And they're kind of picking and choosing to go and
Mhm.
they like pack their lunch every day, but then they eat like certain meals.
That backs just communication of parents not knowing that we have to pay for that and wasting food.
I think, speaking from personal experience, I think partly it's also, since this is the first year that this was a, a mandated program, we weren't really sure how it was gonna go. And so there may have been students who were like, well, I'll give it a try. They know my parents don't enjoy making lunch every day. And then they started the year and realized that, for lack of a better word, the previous versions of food offerings were more to their liking, whatever.
That's what I keep hearing too, but the food that they used to be here is way better. too.
Yeah.
And it's work through San Diego Unified, so we sort of can find.
Do we have to be through San Diego Unified? No, we've got
You don't
some-
have to, but if you do go through a private vendor, there is like a lot of hurdles to jump through with the USDA, because they have to provide like nutrition analysis, they have to have a registered dietitian.
And the cost is a lot more,
The
right?
cost is a lot more per
Or
platter.
we can also offer offset and say, like, if you want to order lunch
I
instead of
don't,
paying for
I
it.
don't think legally the school can ask for the money from parents. Because it's mandated by the state.
It has to provide it for free.
But that's what I'm saying, I thought if requested, like, there has to be a free option you can sign up for. But if parents want to buy a lunch on a Tuesday instead of have lunch every single day. Is that one of the options that we could provide?
I don't think you can have two vendors at the same time.
No, I was saying like for the same vendor. So we can say, if you want free lunches every single day, you sign up for the free lunches. If you want to pick and choose 2 days a week. And go online and order lunches, you can go online and order if that's what you'd like.
If we're to use private.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, for instance, Boomly, like what we used them last time. You went on for a month beforehand and you can say like, I want this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one.
Right.
So would there be a free lunch option and an à la carte option? Could that be?
There could be,
I'm
but
just
then
trying
you
to
have
think
to
of
go.
any way to get away from
But then you have to go
$150,000.
through the, you have to go through the whole program with the the National School Lunch Program and resubmit all the paperwork, because we onboarded with them with San Diego Unified. So essentially you'd have to
We'd have to re-onboard.
yeah, because if you change your vendor and you switch from district to a private vendor, you have to go through a whole procurement process. You have to get like 5 bids, you have to put it through the board, you have to, and then you have to submit it to the CDE, and then they have to say, okay. And then from there, they have to submit their menus, they have to submit all of their own paperwork, all of their permits. So it's-
There's some that are already shortlisted
Yeah.
that qualify, that are under the umbrella, that aren't just affiliated with SDUSD.
I don't know.
And I think, I know it's a pain, but if we can at least do a little research and figure out, maybe some other charter schools are still using the group that we use. Maybe they qualify, or there's another group that qualifies, just to give us some other options.
I know our surrounding charter schools that are similar in our demographic are using the district.
That doesn't, the easy answer is not the right answer.
Yeah,
I think is really where we're coming to. So if it is more work, but it's the right answer, then so be it. Right? So it sounds like the school lunch is provided by Sandy Unified and are okay.
That's generous.
I was trying to be kind, but they are okay. They are nutritionally past muster and they are cheap. Which currently budget wise, if we were to do a Moonly like we did or something like that. There may be ways to have them come on where. There is an option to upgrade, like I could say, hey, I'll take the free lunch these 3 days, but I'll pay for it these other 2 so I can have meatloaf or whatever is the one that the kid likes. Is that, I think, Kate, is what you're kind of.
right, or we don't need free lunch, we're not gonna take it, but my kid loves their chicken nuggets, so I'll pay $10 for chicken nuggets, so I don't have to pack lunch on Wednesdays.
The only thing I'd wonder about that is do we have to have a minimum subscription to that, right?
Exactly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think. Not only the cost of this, but moreover, the massive amounts of food waste that I see at this school every single time I walk through it is. Super irresponsible, so.
I think if for whatever reason, you can't find another vendor, it has to be through Unified. Then we gotta start messaging a lot better to people, whether it's direct emails or part of our Friday communications of, hey, if you're not using this every day, please opt out, we're wasting a tremendous amount of food. Yeah, just to start emphasizing.
And you said there is an only in, only out. There's no Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or.
You can't like pick your days.
And it's costing the school $150,000 right now. Now, it sounds like some of that's getting back reimbursed, right? They're a few months behind. We may see some money back this year and next year's probably will.
And we were onboarded until January, right?
Right.
And we're boarded December.
December.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
December.
we
So
were-
that's why we're just now starting to see stuff come in because they're like 3 or 4 months behind.
Is, given the amount of food waste, is there, so when you have a wedding, you invite 300 people and they say you can assume 30% aren't gonna show up. So you order 210 meals just to be safe, and sure enough, you got food left over. Is there a way for us to go, hey, we got 160 kids signed up? We're only getting rid of 120 lunches every day. We have the data for the last year. Let's get 130 and we have more than enough if need be.
I think that question was in there because I don't. see that.
I would imagine
It
if
would
the state law, the
imagine.
way that it is for,
It's probably
it's
very,
probably like you have to
You have-
want
yeah.
someone.
I would.
Because
guess
if
that too, but I
everybody
don't.
showed up,
But what I
you
can
know what I
say,
mean?
But we know that everybody's not, right? Not only people being sick. Just take your ADA and go, hey, we're out, 15% of kids every day. There's a cut right there. Plus, I personally know 3 or 4 families that their kids were doing it and they're like, nah, don't like this anymore. But they're still signed up.
well, that's what I was gonna say. So I don't, I know I was, in my last school, we were in the same program. And we got our food catered from LA. They would drive it up and deliver it every Tuesday. No, sorry, Monday and Thursday. They would be delivered. And even we did what you're saying. We basically toyed with the numbers and got it to a level where we always had about 10 meals more than what it looked like we were gonna be at, just so we were covered. And kind of ran that way. And because they brought the meals, they bring on like whatever day, Monday and Thursday, I think. So they bring Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday's meals. So if for whatever reason there was something that was like going off the shelves, you kind of had some backup there, and then they would bring it. So, but I don't know what that looks like. It's
We don't
the,
have
it's the
the
onboarding.
capacity to
Store all
hold
that.
food, that's
The
the problem.
refrigerators came with it. That was part of they brought refrigerators, they bought the heaters that you were to use to heat them, like that was part of the deal. But I do know that the price that we were getting from in that scenario, and again, this was last year, I don't know, it might be apples to oranges now, but it was cheaper than the district, but it was cheaper by the district than like 2 cents, but it was way better. yeah, I can glad to reach out and see.
You
what
were
it
able
is.
to estimate you get your numbers down, to like, assuming you were gonna have the 15%.
Yeah, we were able to toy with the delivery, but I don't know how that, I don't know how that goes, like.
But you weren't forced to pay for food that you.
Other than maybe 10 million.
Yeah, we were overaging just to make sure we were covered, and there were specific meals that like, kids lined up to get versus ones that they avoided. On different days, but I don't know, I wasn't doing the Natalie job in that, so I was just in the conversation, well, how many more do we need, those sorts of things, but I know it's happened, but I don't know the logistics.
So it sounds like a three-pronged approach. We gotta figure there's other vendors that we could use that aren't too onerous, that maybe already fall under the short list, or we can get them going. If there is a short list, or if we go through the procurement process.
Yeah,
We
because
gotta
losing
look
it
at
to reapplying would just reset us back, that is the scary part. We have to go back through the
Yeah, but if you turn in paperwork in July, we're fine. Right.
I don't, my assumption is yes to that. Like,
Right.
I don't.
This is just a matter of timing and actually getting the work done on the front end, if there's additional work to be done.
Sure.
But then parallel path, we could look at our numbers, figure out if we can come up with an approximation of, hey, typically we're doing 60% of what we're ordering, that's what's getting. And then the third thing would be, we over communicate about, hey, only opt in if you plan on eating, because we're wasting a ton of food.
And then
it's costing school money.
As students are disenrolled here, are they automatically taken off the program?
you do take them off. What about, is there a way for us to ask for opt-in, opt-out on a quarterly basis? And just say, hey,
Just
checking in with you.
Well, that's interesting, just
If you
like,
jump-
if you at each quarter to like restart it, that's.
At least.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because
That
everybody,
is leave, that we can't do that?
every student's gonna sign up for it August
Right.
Sure.
9th or whatever the date.
Once they know what the food is.
They're gonna find out the food 2 weeks later, I ain't eating this crap. Well, you can come back to them October 1st and be like, hey.
Yeah.
This meal costs us X number of dollars per day. We're excited to provide it for you. Is your family still interested in having every meal provided?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And
I
just
didn't know
have
we
a
could do that.
regular communication that way, because you should be able to at least pick some of this up.
Yeah, we'll start trimming.
Right,
each
and then,
quarter.
and if we have the numbers, we know who's not picking up, it sounds like we do, or at least a pretty good idea. We should be able to look and go, okay, 60% of the kids are. What if we cut it back to 90% of the food we order? So we have so much room, but we can shave off some.
Mhm. I think that's a great idea.
When they disenroll, they're automatically taken off, or you have to go? in
Well, we
and
have to
tell
go
them?
in, you have to physically go and do that, and we tell the district.
All right, I think we hit this one pretty hard. We got a lot of stuff to cover. I mean, it's valid. I think we got some good action items coming out of this. All right. We good? We moving? Natalie, anything else you wanted to hit? Okay, thank you. IT report, Christian, you're up.
Great. We're pleased to provide the technology update on a successful competition of successful CAS testing in the middle school and elementary. With only minor hiccups encountered and promptly resolved, the IT department will be focusing on the end of the year checkout process, and we're going to be highlighting some key aspects related to the end of the year checkout, which is system updates, and also we'll be talking about the 8th grade emails. In preparation for the end of the year checkout, our dedicated IT team is actively working on system updates for all staff and student technology. These updates encompass software patches, security enhancements, and hardware maintenance to ensure optimal performance in the preparation for the 2023-2024 school year. By implementing these updates, we aim to provide seamless and efficient experience for all end users. OTA notification for 8th grade graduate class. We want to notify that the 8th grade graduating class about their OTA email accounts. Before graduating, we will send out an important information and instructions regarding their OTA email account via email. All graduate students need to check their OTA email regularly to receive these updates. For 8th grade students who wish to transfer their assignments or homework to another email address, After graduating, we have established a process to facilitate this transition. Students will have 1 week grace period following the graduation to transfer any necessary academic materials from their OTA email to their desired personal or educational email account. During this time, students can export or forward their homework and assignments to the email address of their choice. Eighth grade students need to plan accordingly to ensure that they have access to their OTA email accounts during the transition period to complete the transfer process smoothly. Our IT support team will be available to assist students who may encounter any technical difficulties or require guidelines to transfer academic material. Should any eighth grade student have questions or require further assistance regarding their OTA email account or checkout procedures, our IT department is ready to provide necessary supports. We remain committed to utilize technology to enhance the educational experience and ensure a successful transition for all students as they progress to the next phase of their academic journey. Thank you for taking your time. And here am I to report for the May board meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to ask.
When that week start, the transition week,
So it'll be after they graduate.
like the next day?
No,
The following week.
They want to-
Any questions for Christian? Okay, thank you. All right, we get the Zoom man. Can you hear us, Walker? Hopefully, maybe give us a thumbs
Try to
up.
unmute.
That's what I thought he was doing too.
No.
Just trying.
Hey, you guys.
Yeah.
You hear me? No.
Hear me?
Oh, boy. Yep. Good, thank you. All right, we get Zoom man. Can you hear us, Walker?
I can hear you. I don't know if I'm on some sort of delay. Right now, but, I guess I'll talk. I'll talk one way and it seems like I'm a real big delay, so this might be horrible. But, of the eight, of the meeting I just had with engineers last week. Colleagues of the Britain Farm, our choice for being the unified school district. There's 8 new leads and 4 continued prospects who identified that we're still pursuing. All of those 3 key prospects. Three key prospects in Western Mission Valley, and then Vista and Paloma. How many of my time, because we have a lot of feedback and distortion on this.
Okay, you're gonna hear me in 30 seconds. You're okay as long as we don't talk. You just have the weird feedback things. Thanks, Walker.
Hey, can you call him and just like, put him on
Yeah.
speakerphone or,
We can definitely do that.
or translate, just summarize for him? His it's important.
No, you can say how.
See other shit.
Yeah. All right, let me call him. I think that I'm right there.
Montaloma Heights. Montaloma Heights. Apparently my house.
Don't get snippy. It's so late.
Hey, yeah, there's weird technical issues, but I can throw you on the speaker and we can hear you. That's fine. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, let's do it. All right.
You can talk now.
You know, it's on the side.
Okay, guys, I don't need a ton of time, but, so I meet monthly with, San Diego Unified and Colliers to go over prospects and, as of the last meeting, there was 8 new leads, and we continued with 4 previous leads that, showed some promise. And, of those, from a top line perspective, there's 3 properties we're pursuing. One's in western Mission Valley, right when the 8th freeway starts, or right where the 5 and the 8th freeway start. Another one is in Linda Vista, and then the third one is in Point Loma, specifically in Point Loma Heights. All 3 require some work in relationship to their rent rolls and their existing tenants. But there's some promise on those 3 specifically. Again, you know, we've had some help, we've had some leads from the community with other realtors chiming in. And the more help, the better. Again, and I detailed out in the prior meeting, just some of the parameters, and happy again to send those out. Or if anyone is interested in learning a little bit, please come see me, or reach out, or I'll be at the gala.
Okay, I think we may have done it. And we actually communicated. Does anybody have any questions for Walker? Walker, how many of those do you think are real?
I think that of the 3, filtering them down, the Western Mission Valley one is the most real. The challenges that we face is proximity, is twofold. Proximity to the freeway, we're right on the cusp of it, and proximity to gas, underneath the gas pipeline. And it sounds ominous, but I mean, if you look at this overlay map, it's just, there's always going to be some sort of a minefield or some sort of an obstacle. But I'm pressing pretty hard on our realtors, and also San Diego Unified, our 2 key contacts there. And my cordial style has not been so cordial in our meetings, and just expressing to them the gravity behind some of the near misses and delays. So keeping the pressure on them and working with Unified for some leniency and some flexibility as it relates to some distance guidelines and some proximity measures that they've been pretty staunch about, but they understand our situation and do have seems like they're affable to some flexibility here. So again, the Mission Valley location does seem the most promising of the 3.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions for Walker? Keep fighting a good fight, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna take you off my phone, but if you need anything, just text me.
We can put you back on speaker if you have any questions.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Turning the page, board discussion. Me, okay. I already hit it on the front end. The board elections are coming up, super important. We're gonna have a lot of turnover. I was counting, I think there's 6 positions that are opening up from folks that are either terming out or stepping down for various reasons. So it's a great opportunity to inject some new blood into the board. Get some different faces up here, hopefully get some parents with younger kids that can bring a different perspective. I was really hoping that Daniel was gonna be here. He actually emailed that he is traveling for a work emergency, but he's gonna be our election guy, I'm hoping. And we need to get it going like now. So Christian, if there's anything that you can do to help I'm not sure how involved you were with Jeremy last year, but it should be essentially the same ballot survey, whatever we did last year. Just filling in new names and new dates and posting the link and getting it out to the community. So I'm not sure how much that happens from Jeremy or Daniel versus how much you can get that in process, because we just got to get it out there.
I'll start working on that.
Awesome. And I'll send a note to you, Daniel, and Jeremy, and probably CC Kate, because I have her helping to just herd some cats. Anything you can do, I know it's not part of your job description, but anything you can do to help us in that. I'm hoping that it's really just a template that we can kind of update and repost, because it should all be the same process. So that's that. Hopefully that'll be coming out in the next 2 weeks, because our next board meeting is the 14th, and we want to have our new members decided upon. They won't be part of that meeting, but at least then they can know who's going to be there starting the new year in August. All right, we buried the lead. Mr. C, you've sat here for a long time. You are up. We're very excited to get the results of the parent survey.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna see if this reaches, yeah. Too much. All right, sorry, Kate, I'm not pointing at you. I don't know, Chris, if you want to stay there or if you, yeah. But everybody be looking like right at through you actually, and I think I'm gonna be in your way, Maya. Sorry. I'll be off to the side. I definitely don't want to be in the middle because then backsides to the camera. All right, so my name is John Frenchie. I was, if you don't know me, and if you don't know me out in TV land, I was a former principal and executive director of OTA a few years back. Currently serving as a consultant and working with Devin and the board and staff in really getting us back on track. And, you know, Tammy mentioned it before about some of the things that led us to where we are today. And we acknowledge that, we recognize it, you know, we lean into it, right? Because we don't want to shy away from it, but also we don't want to spend too much time on that because that doesn't do anybody any good, right? So we move forward. And as Zach was saying, this survey and the work we're doing so far serves as a springboard for what's going to happen next. And I'll talk about next steps like towards the end of this presentation. But I'll go through the slide deck, and this is really just a sharing of the data from the parent survey. And what I did, I looked at the consensus, I looked at patterns, I looked at trends. And when you have anonymous surveys like this, you'll get some outlying responses. So I'm not going to speak to those extremes. At the end of this presentation, all the board members will have access to the whole survey. This, what you have in front of you, plus all the comments from every question that's on the survey, which isn't on the document you have now, and it's not in the document I'm showing. But you'll have access after this. Any questions so far? All right. So first off, what grades your child in? So I broke this down. I actually went through all 71 of the survey responses. And because I was curious and I wanted to share with you, the number of parents that had one student at OTA who completed the survey was 45. The number of parents that had 2 students at OTA who completed the survey was 21. 5 parents have 3 or more. And 1 parent, I would assume, made a mistake because they said they have a student in every grade level. So, pretty busy parent. I don't know if you have 9 kids here. But I'm assuming that was a mistake. So almost twice as many that completed the survey have 1 student at OTA. Now, where are they in, and this is better because it's in color now, isn't it? Isn't it black and white? So taking a look at this, more than 3 years, so the parents that completed the survey, 69% have been here more than 3 years. 42% have been here more than 5 years. And 30% of the people that completed the survey have been here less than 3 years. So that obviously breaks it down into those different categories, but I combined them just to kind of see where we were with that. In asking the questions, we use a 5-point Likert scale. So if you look at the numbers, 5 is very satisfied, 1 is very dissatisfied, 3 is neither satisfied or dissatisfied. So a lot of times you'll hear me talk about the 4s and 5s because I combine those to a cumulative satisfied or very satisfied. So how satisfied are you with school safety? 72% of the parents who completed the survey said they're satisfied or very satisfied. And then you see the other numbers there. Some of the comments, because we asked, okay, what are some ideas that you might have to improve school safety? A lot of the comments were assuring the school is secure, and it was talking about the physical structure, the fences, the locks. Apparently there's a gate, the pedestrian gate, you just have to push it really hard and it pops open. So just things like that were mentioned in the survey. More drills, increase in parent presence, better organized and structured pickup and drop-off procedures would increase overall school safety. Any questions as I go through these slides? Do you have a question about a particular slide or data from that slide? Let me know. How satisfied are you with the overall core content academic program? 63% satisfied or very satisfied. So we still have a large number that are very satisfied, but 25% said either neither or satisfied nor dissatisfied. And it could be that messaging that was brought out before, they really don't know what's happened. So we need to really focus on that. And I'm sure Bob will hit that a little bit later with his report about CK. Some of the comments, overwhelming responses throughout the survey and in this category, and the one later about specials was STEM. And the school took a hit when Taylor left, and there's no getting around that. And I said we need to lean into things like that. And so Devin will talk a little bit later about where we are with the STEM program. But the STEM and robotics is a major concern of a lot of parents, understandably. So that came out as a top priority. Project-based learning being integrated throughout content areas came out in the survey as well. Longer classes in middle school and integrating Spanish. If you were around when I was here, we had to eliminate some things due to the budget, and Spanish was one of them. And I was that person at the time who we didn't have Spanish within the school day. So in some of these things, we really have to look at the budget. And I have been in communication with Zach, and then Monday's meeting with Devin, included Michael. We talked a little bit more about budget. So if we're talking about bringing in things and bringing Spanish back or some things like that, a lot of those decisions have to deal with the budget. Prioritizing these different areas, no surprise. Ranking first and second was robotics with 51. So 51 people ranked robotics as either their first or second highest priority of importance in the program. So obviously robotics is number 1, music was number 2 with 41 respondents, and then Spanish, and then art, which really isn't surprising to anyone who's connected with the school. That has been historical. Some ideas: arts being integrated into content areas, robotics in kindergarten through 3rd grade, leading to STEM or robotics integrated into STEM in 4th through 8th grade. Lower class sizes in music, probably getting back to what people remember before when we split music and robotics. And so you had half the number of kids in music. So there were comments about that. And then Spanish being taught in the school day came up again for that. This is obviously 50-50. So in looking at when you would like to have these exhibitions or see your students present their projects, you're split. So some of the ideas were offering both. have some within the school day and have some exhibitions at night. Some of the comments about the exhibition at night or in the after school hours was it needs to be more organized. And it was too chaotic. So that came across in the survey. I don't know, but I'm just saying what came in the survey. So I think later when I make suggestions in a final report to the board, this is a good example of a suggestion I would make is to have offerings of both within the school day and after school to get as much parent involvement as you can. How satisfied are you with the after school program? The data here is a little bit skewed because not everybody uses the after school program. So 42% are satisfied or very satisfied, 27% neither satisfied nor dissatisfied because they just don't know.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Sure.
Going back to the last slide on the split between AM and PM. Do you know, and maybe you don't know this right now, but do you know if there was a larger majority of, say, the younger elementary during the day and the middle school at night, or?
Don't, but if we did, and they'll all have access to it. If you go to responses and you go to summary, it gives you this. If you go to individual, you can go through every single response. And that's how I got those first numbers of how many have been here, have one kid, how many have two kids and so on. So you could figure that out. You could desegregate it. I just didn't.
Yeah, no, I know from the foundation, because we had some daytime and nighttime, and there certainly was a larger percentage of the younger elementary that we got feedback having daytime events were better for their schedules from the child's interaction perspective. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's there. I just didn't pull it that way.
Okay, thank you.
It actually probably is useful for the next slide as well, because younger students tend to be more satisfied with after school programs versus middle school and.
You know, we kind of, that was something we should. Certain programs that they come.
Yeah, some of the comments were more middle school offerings. I can remember that being a concern when I was here, so we set it up, but then the middle school kids didn't sign up for it. So then it's hard to sustain it when we don't have the numbers for it. So it's this back and forth. One thing was surprising to me is that chess came up a few times as better quality chess program. So I don't know if it's changed over the years, but chess came up a couple of times.
Yeah, they went remote after.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
They had a great program, then they changed.
Yeah, it was solid. It throughout the grade levels, it was a great program.
Yeah.
So maybe looking back and being in person, there were quite a few that were asking for free offerings for after school programs. So that may be something to explore. And then a few questions about part-time YMCA. Is that possible? I know before it wasn't. So that may be something to explore is can we have our kids dropped off there and only part-time? I don't need to have them go to the YMCA every day. All right, which form of communication do you prefer? 70% electronic newsletter, 20% said all. So the only thing that was really not reflected were the robocalls. Nobody really likes those.
I think, hold on, I think it's maybe like a misnomer though, because where did the text blast fall into this?
Okay, so it didn't.
Yeah, because I think when
Yeah,
I think robocall, unfortunately nowadays is like the mass text,
yeah,
which I think people actually do like, but nobody likes getting a call.
right. So I would say having the responses, blog posts, electronic newsletter, robocalls, all of the above. It's probably my fault for not recognizing the wide use of text at this campus, because quite honestly, it's not used that much in other schools. It just happens to be used more here, which brings me to most of the comments were with text.
Okay.
So in the comments, in the personal comments that people say, hey, what ideas do you have? Overwhelming, they want to be texted the information.
Great.
So I'm sure there's a way to blast that out in text and phone calls. And blog posts, I don't know. But yeah, overwhelmingly, they want the text or app option. So they referenced the foundation. So I don't know exactly what is used in the foundation with that app, but that might be something to explore too for overall school communication. Increasing open communication between parents, staff, principal, everybody on campus, and just open that line of communication. And following up on calls and things like that. Doesn't go and then it goes twice. All right. So how many of you concerned, or what's the percentage concerned with retaining quality teachers? 86% concerned or very concerned. And overwhelming, the comments were paying more. So that was the number one, and I would suggest, as I always have, is trying to be competitive with the salary scales with the surrounding districts. Most often we look at San Diego Unified and see if we can come close to matching, or at least close to what they're offering in San Diego Unified. So that's huge. And then the second one was time. And I know in a recent board meeting, you talked about the minimum days. So talking about retaining teachers, giving them more time to work on projects, to work on developing those core knowledge lessons, to work on integrating projects within their content, that would be valuable. And that keeps the teachers here, because with core knowledge, it doesn't give you lessons like some other curriculum does. It sets the guidelines and outlines it in a roadmap for everything, but it doesn't hand you lessons. So the teachers have to develop all their lessons. And if you're really talking about doing core knowledge the right way, it's thematic units, and it takes a lot of time in planning those units. So time was the second factor here. All right, the last one was, how involved are you in school activities and events? 53% said involved or very involved. 39% said somewhat involved. So that's a total of 92% that are somewhat involved or more. That's hard because sometimes, I'm not saying this happened with this survey, but sometimes parents will say they're more involved than they actually are, thinking that somehow it's going to get back to them. What we do know is that there's a very small percentage of parents that do most of the work, rather than a lot of the parents doing a little bit of the work. So a suggestion here, and it'll be in my report, is that really revisit that. You can go to the next steps one, that's fine. Revisit that suggestion requirement of 40 hours a year for parents, and just really making that explicit. Hey, we really need you. We really want you on campus, and figuring out a system where you can control the volunteers, and not control the volunteers, but have a controlled system where you have volunteers on campus. So that will help. So next steps, I'll have a report that I'll give to the board. Next steps, as Zach mentioned a couple times, is a strategic plan. I think that's a really good next step, is take information from this survey, from discussions at Coffee with the Principal and other events, get together a team of teachers, board members, parents, community members, and work on a strategic plan for the next 3 years. Because what Walker was talking about with the real estate and all those different sites, that's not going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So if you all think you're moving into a new school next year, you're not. These things take time, and Walker can back me up on that. We've been working on this for years. So it would make sense to put together a 2 to 3 year strategic plan ahead of a move to a new facility. So that would be the next steps. Any questions about the data? All right.
When you provide the raw data to the board members, that just be a survey link essentially, or?
Yeah, it's a survey link. So as soon as I disconnect from there, I'll come over here and I'll send you all the link. And you'll have the link to the Google Doc that has everything on it. And you can desegregate, like we were talking about, with the primary grades and upper grades with the exhibitions. You can take a look at all the comments and come to some conclusions. And then in the report that I provide, take a look at everything to discuss your next steps. Anything else?
Were those questions, you might mention something, were they, was this sort of the questions sort of standardized from any kind of like standardized questionnaire or survey, or did we get them up?
Actually, no. It's the questions were based on, quite honestly, what I felt were the most important topics to spring us to the next steps without going too deep. Could there have been other questions? Sure. But we wanted to get the survey out rather quickly.
Yeah, I
to
just
get the
mentioned
data.
the surveys are as tricky as in terms of
it gets into like wording the questions and all that kind of stuff, but that's helpful.
Yeah, and there were some comments like, why didn't you ask me this?
Yeah.
So I get it. And then other, people might think, well, why did you ask me this? So, either way, you can't win.
Right.
But it just starts us off. It's 71 responses, so it's not all the parents. So I think it's worthwhile having these conversations with parents and saying, yeah, we recognize the past, but we're looking to the future now. So what do you think are next steps? And you can do that this Saturday, informally. Say, what do you think's going on? We heard some information at the board meeting. What do you think we should do?
There's only partying on Saturday.
You know, they're gonna be talking about it. They're gonna talk shopping.
Don't-
Mr. Drink Bracelets, you're talking a lot of shit.
Yeah, but I think looking at this data is critical, and regardless of the quality of the survey, maybe there should have been some other questions, because historically, the parents make the difference at this school. So it's not OTA without the parent involvement. So this is a great first step to see where we are. I don't want to stop with this, because you always want the parent involvement and engagement, but we need to recognize, okay, where are we going next? And when you lay out a strategic plan, that really helps guide that.
Thank you for acknowledging that OTA needs parents' involvement. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think as long as we're all mindful that the decisions that are being made are based on what's best for the kids,
Thank you.
not what's best for me or you.
Yep.
Quite honestly, I respect you, but I don't care what you think if it's not good for kids.
Absolutely, thank you. And that's what I've been saying.
So I think we need to keep that in mind and just, acknowledge where we are and lean into it and work towards the future. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. C. I will say, Devin, you're probably gonna make this next. Before we get there, a lot of these things we kind of knew about, and we're obviously always canvassing the parents and staff and trying to get ahead of these things. So as much like STEM, for example, it's been something that is huge and we've been aware of since August. I've been trying to solve since August, and unfortunately it just hasn't. But I think we're going to have a better plan going into next year, and that also includes parent volunteering and engagement and getting the community back. Class size, STEM, robotics. So I think it's important. This is just, again, memorializing and listening from a wider group, but there are issues that we all have been aware of, and I think this just reinforces that, and there's going to be a renewed focus on it. All right, Claire, Parent Foundation reports.
Hey. All right, so I think you guys should all have a copy of the report. Included with that report should be a copy of our proposed calendar and budget this year. I do want to make sure you guys have that.
We have it.
Great.
It's enough.
Outstanding. So we have provided a copy of the proposed budget and calendar to the council, obviously, our room parents, a host of other parents who have been assisting the school and the teachers as well. We do want to make sure as we go into next year that we have captured all of the items that we as a school think need to be on there, and that if there's anything that we missed, that we're soliciting a wide audience and getting as much feedback as possible to make sure that we're incorporating that. So if you can take time, obviously, you don't have to do it right this second, but before the next 2 weeks pass would be really helpful to get any feedback, if anybody has feedback on that. The school-wide survey, we were all anxiously awaiting that information, so we will also be taking those results and parents' indications of what's important to them into our planning for next year as we think about fundraising efforts and where we want to focus some of our volunteers and that sort of thing. Elections for next year's council have taken place.
There are still positions open. Don't worry. Anybody listening who wants to be involved, we still have a place for you. That being said, we did have a good turnout. Tracy Beal will be our new treasurer. Carola Perlata will be our new communication coordinator. Cecilia Marcondes is going to continue as our volunteer coordinator. Myself, Sally, Sarah, our webmaster, Sheila, our parliamentarian, and Amy as our jogathon will be continuing. The open positions are auditor, secretary, and gala chair. But we are also looking at a number of committees. So again, if you have any interest, we will find a spot for you. Let's see. Next year's gala, that's Saturday, DJs, dancing, karaoke, food, drinks. If you haven't bought a wristband, buy one. They're only $40. All of your money goes to a good cause, mostly to your glass. Really a good cause. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the auction. There were a lot of good gifts given out. There will still be additional auction items available at the gala, both a silent auction and live. We're very excited about the participation that we've seen so far and excited for Saturday night. Obviously, we're all waiting to see the outcome of the gala, so we'll report on that hopefully at the next meeting. Grandparents' Day is also coming up. That will be near the end of the month. Additional uniform sale items. We've had a small amount of continuing trickling uniform sales. Are we, this is a question, are we still looking at different uniform items for next year or?
You should come to my office so we can do that.
Okay.
Sorry, what's that?
Uniform sales is a budget losing item for us. So just very curious to understand what we're doing with that going forward.
So you guys aren't talking about changing the uniform?
No, we were looking at potentially different things. And that was discussed with the Godfather prior.
Yeah,
Changes been made or, okay,
no, I'm just asking what our plans are.
yeah, and
As we
you said
continue
that was
to, yeah,
before, so I'm asking if a change has been made or if it was just spoken about.
just spoken about, yeah.
Yeah, we just talked about it. I've had some vendors drop some stuff off. So that's what I said you should come out.
Okay. Great. All right. So getting I think we'll just talk about the inventory and stuff for that before we, okay. Great. The capital project grant, we did have our first report out for that. So we do need to just formalize that reporting, but the information that we've provided is the content that they are looking for. The Kellogg grant, we were not awarded in our first round at the far south border north was not awarded, but the second round of that should come up soon. So we will be applying for that shortly. 7th grade hosted our staff lunch this month. That went off very well. It's very exciting. And we have an online room parent portal that is nearly built. It is currently in its last stages of vetting, but there should be a lot more information available for our room parents going into next year. So we're just editing that. There are a couple of other items on the list that still need some feedback. Survey, school-wide survey results, check. We'll check that one off the list. But they're just here for reference so we can continue to keep track of the items. You can scratch if I added on there. I had a question about the uniform complaint, but I have since figured out that it is a standard complaint form, not a complaint form about uniforms. Nobody judge me. Questions? Yes.
So any benefit to gently used current uniform materials?
Yes, we will be collecting used uniforms. Yes.
Great.
We will have
And
them.
if people won the online auction items, how do we go about letting them know when to pick them up?
So do you have some items that you would like to pick up? Many of them have been delivered in the drop-off pickup area, but if there are specific items, we can make arrangements with you. Yeah.
I've been out on drop off pickup recently.
yes.
Starting teaching, so
Let me know. I think we can arrange something for you.
thank you.
Okay.
And how will you let us know about the drop off for gently used items?
That should be coming out soon.
Maybe a text.
Maybe a text, maybe before or after our board election.
Robocall.
Unclear.
I don't get time. All right.
Have you signed up for text? If you have not signed up for text, you will not get text.
Or the app.
The sign up is available on the website. One does need to apply for it and sign into it to receive them.
What impact does a new vendor have on gently used items that are planning to be used for next year?
Oh, yeah, we need that on it, right? But it's still utilized.
I mean, if the uniform doesn't change, I don't know that it,
The problem with the vendor that we have this year, the stuff that was ordered, delivered differently than what it was ordered, and in like pretty mass quantities too. And so,
there are inventory and reconciliation items with the current vendor. I'm not suggesting a change to the uniform. I am suggesting that we have someone who can manage.
I mean, that usually
Inventory.
means a change to the uniform, if they're changing to a different. Because there's, I mean, they're not gonna be the exact same thing.
they
Or
are.
does our
they're-
current vendor?
That was what I was, that's why.
Our current vendor does not either.
I know,
So
you're gonna pick up used uniforms and reuse them.
well, I mean, we do now. There is inconsistency in the product as it stands.
You know, the grays are different.
You're all good. They never get exempt, you never buy a new version.
I'm gonna get a flurry of calls tomorrow, so I'm making sure I ask the question.
Yeah. Don't worry, the discrepancies that currently exist won't change. Expect the same standard.
Can we go back to the good ones, like what you have those A polos instead of the knit?
Well, I think this is what originally was, but I think
Yeah.
like other stuff got sent in the orders. Like from last year got sent to be things that like were that silky stuff and like wasn't anything that was ordered.
There's a wide variety.
Yeah, that was the problem. I think they just were like, anything they had purple, they were like, let's make a shirt out of it. And so that's where the issue that we had. Yeah, I like this.
They wash them.
Yeah, let me know which brand, and I mean, we'll definitely put that into the information, but I think we need a consistent vendor who delivers what's asked for, no more, no less. That's all I'm looking for.
As someone who's dealt with that, I feel your pain.
Any other questions for Claire? Everybody gonna be there on Saturday?
Yeah, what's going on Saturday?
Sir.
I'm just kidding with you.
Sir.
Looking forward to it. It's always a great event. Thank you very much. Okay. Principal report. Devin.
Okay. So, the first thing, on there is the elevators, so I want to give an update on the elevator. The elevator company is telling me that they're 3 weeks behind because the jack, is on back order in the United States. So it was gonna take 3 more weeks for them to get here. That means they should start right around the time that we have Grandparents' Day, which was our goal for, having it completed. So wanted to give that update. Haven't gotten an update from them in about a week, so we'll be checking in with them just because I've been checking in to keep up with that. On this second one or other repairs, we actually have had a quiet month of repairs. I've kind of left these board items on here because they were pretty consistent. The things that we still have or that are now kind of becoming a problem, I don't know if you guys noticed, some of our privacy screening was gone. We're assuming that someone just literally walked by and pulled the whole thing off and maybe used it as a blanket. And so we're looking at new ways to secure it. It's how it was secured before. We had just changed the privacy fence to update it. So we're looking at new ways to kind of secure that. But we can't secure it on the inside, which would be ideal because in different areas, there's concrete on the other side that the poles are actually like sewn into. So we're trying to figure out how to coordinate that. But we had just last night, I think there was like a square cut off with here's like a box cutter or something like that was cut off. So we'll be replacing those. we're looking to kind of figure out how we can secure them better.
Is that the purple or is that the new, was the new privacy screen all installed? So it's the new one? that
It's
was-
the new one. We hadn't completed the whole, because there's still some purple sections out there.
Yeah.
We were trying to actually get it size fit because of the way the holes fall. The ones that are out there, somebody probably box cuttered and attached, and so we were trying to actually get it custom to fit the fence properly. That's the reason it kind of delayed the way it did. But the new one is the one that was taken, and then the new one was also the one that was cut. And then Mario still has the backstop thing that he's working on. The last I knew, and that one was probably about 2 weeks ago, and we had shared that they were getting closer to being able to do the full stuff, but I haven't heard an update on that one recently. Any questions on repairs, elevator, or?
Yeah.
So the turf company came. They were supposed to come Thursday. I believe they came Friday during school last week. And took all the measurements. Our turf is being replaced by our recent time.
You know, the date,
They have not given me a date.
pretty much after school.
Doing that. They haven't even worked with me on when that would be, when would be a good time. I'll take into account the amount of days that it is. If they can do it over the weekend, that's great. For do that, so it's in place for the end of the year, but my assumption is summer project at this point. But the good news is brand new turf done. And in all those replacements, we got a drainage system put in when they were trying to do it too. So that was what's it's out there now, but that's a positive kind of change that they're doing. Any other questions on repairs? Then I'm going to turn it over to Bob Ham. He's going to give us the core knowledge visit report and just kind of share with you what the report entailed. Felt like it was a pretty good report. I was excited about some of the stuff. So Bob being our core knowledge coordinator, wanted to let him present.
Thank you. As you know, most of our staff this year are new teachers. So Devin and I got together and we brought in a consultant from the Core Knowledge Foundation that had an all-day professional development with all of our teachers in August. She came back last month for 2 days. The first day she was in classrooms observing the teachers teaching core knowledge. The second day she had one-on-one meetings with every teacher to discuss, what their problems were, what they thought was working, what was not. She has sent us a big report. Most of it is information that I'm going to go over tomorrow with the teachers. But general information, she was very impressed with our teachers' understanding of what core knowledge is and what core knowledge practices in the classroom. She said usually when she goes into a school with new teachers, it's chaos. The teachers can barely carry on a conversation about what core knowledge is. Our teachers knew what it is. They could carry on a conversation with her. She was very impressed. She wanted us to shift from the 2020 core knowledge sequence to the 2023 sequence. We have already provided all of our teachers with the 2023 update for core knowledge, and they will have those and use those beginning next year. She observed great student discussions in the classroom on the core knowledge topics that were being covered in that classroom. The virtues program being used, she says, is not working. She wants us to return to the core virtues program, and that program is connected with the core knowledge curriculum. And that's why she is wanting us to go back to that. We've been with that most of the years that we've had it. Project-based learning, she said, is going well. she would like to see and thinks it would be better if it was relative final projects were connected with core knowledge. Some of them that she talked to teachers about had no connection with the core knowledge curriculum. She said, if you're gonna do the project-based learning, the project should be related to the core knowledge curriculum. She said we need to incorporate more of the arts into the core knowledge curriculum. She commends the foundation in their focus on the arts. She thought that was excellent. The foundation, what they are doing to helping us get arts into the curriculum. She said it's very important that kindergarten, first and second follow the core knowledge language arts explicitly, not taking things out, not adding things of their own. Because of that, we're bringing in a consultant in August to meet with K1 and 2 to go all day to go over the expectations and what needs to be followed in the core knowledge language arts program for K1 and 2. Because if that base is strong, it continues 3rd through 8th grade. She said we need to saturate the school with core knowledge, posters, curriculum plans, boards in the classroom. She said because of our setup, our windows are perfect for teachers to post what domains they are studying and where they are and where they're going to be going. I think that's it. Overall, she was very pleased with what she saw. Any questions?
So you said the individuals coming back in August to work specifically with K first and second. Are they also going to talk about like the core virtues or the PBL?
No, this is the same person. This is another person who specializes in the core knowledge language arts and getting our K1 and 2 teachers to follow that explicitly. Because if you add your own things, take away stuff, it hurts what's going on 3 through 8.
Okay, well then for like the core virtues or the PBL, how's that information gonna get disseminated to staff or to?
I'm meeting with the staff tomorrow. We're gonna go.
Oh, got it.
And the virtues program, when did we switch? A little while ago?
No, we switched with last year. She switched. She had what she wanted. Yeah. Laura did. And they continue. They have a partial program this year.
Yeah, I'm not, one of the first days I was here in like late June, there was a staff meeting and she worked with the staff to identify the virtues for this year, which deviate from the core knowledge standards that are, I think, on a 3-year cycle.
Mhm. So it's easy to get back on. Yeah.
Make sure we get a copy of those. We have been basing like some of our content off of the virtue.
The virtue stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can pump them out like, once we get on. the
Yeah, because it's on a 3-year cycle. And you know at the beginning of the year, which virtue is each month.
So do we know now for next year?
We
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
and I love that you guys.
win.
I love that you guys have incorporated that. Whenever we sit down to do the kind of the end of year stuff, we're in the time period when we should be doing it, we're wrapping stuff up still from this year, so. The May-June period, it should be provided before we leave, before we go home.
You can provide us my calendar updates.
What?
You can provide it in my calendar.
Will
update.
do.
Thanks.
And your plan is to go back to the one that they're recommending?
Sure, I mean, you know. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense not to, if that's a recommendation, so that's not anything
I think if we can trumpet it as part of those communications, that we were focusing this week or this month or whatever, it just helps foster that sense of community. When we're talking about an assembly, nobody knows
Yeah, we can amp up that. It's not fun.
Okay. Overall though, sounds good. Thank you.
Really
you.
good overall, I felt. All right, we also on last Thursday had San Diego Unified School District site visit. The site visit went well. There were a couple things, and I think Michael shared out, at least with Zach, maybe just Zach and I know, I think. There are a couple policies that we need to update in order to be, really to be compliant. One of those, is the uniform complaint policy, which I was already aware of. And I had already had it on the board docket before they even told us on Thursday. But overall, I think it went well. We have some things we still need to provide them. There were just like an org chart, there were just a couple of things, documents that we needed to provide, but it went well. And we're still on for our charter renewal in 2025. But there is currently a state bill that may actually push us a charter for an additional year to the 2026 year that's being voted on. So the state bills, don't quote me on this, but I think 730. And so it is possible that our charter might actually get an additional year to it to push out to 2026. Michael, is there anything from the site that you want to add since you were part of it?
I got my notes here. Hold on one second. There was nothing overall, little ticky tack things that they found, was a check that was outstanding for 6 months.
Yeah.
Some of the board meeting minutes had duplicates.
Yeah.
Online. The safety plan being more directed towards OTA as opposed to some of the comments are about mimicking what the district does.
Yeah.
But we have to update it so it's what OTA does, not what San Diego Unified does. So there's some language changes in there, nothing a real big deal. Same thing with the universal complaint policy, kind of narrowing it down that it was entirely too wide and we're not. We have too much stuff in there and it should just be very limited in scope. And then the discipline policy, that was the big one that we had some conversations about. That we need to review it. There's a couple of changes in the way state of California does stuff from the discipline standpoint. And we need to make sure our policy is updated to align accordingly.
And I think 2016 was the last time it was updated here.
I believe that's correct.
So it is stuff that we'll push either into June or early August. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Status of teacher evaluations and contracts. I wanted to share that all teachers have gone through the evaluation process at this point. At the school, we sit over an average of 3 on a 4-point scale. I, as an evaluator, was always trained that if your 3 is you meet standards, that means you're doing your job. 4 is not actually an area where teachers live, it's an area where they dance into. So 4 being like an exceptional thing that they do. They don't live there regularly. Some teachers do in some areas, but in general, it's a rarity. So I am probably a little bit harder of an evaluator in that because of my training. And so, but we do have an average of well over 3, according to all of our teachers. We had nobody that was glaring stuff, which brings me to contracts. We did offer contracts post last board meeting. We were able to sign all teachers except for our 3rd grade teacher who is moving to Arizona and our kindergarten teacher who may or may not be leaving the profession, but she shared that she's likely leaving the profession. So those are the only 2 teachers that we didn't bring back. In addition to that, for our 3rd grade position, we have hired, we've offered, and she's accepted. She hasn't signed a contract yet, but our 4th grade long-term sub, Shay Berger, is now going to be our 3rd grade teacher, permitting that she does sign once the contract's put in front of her. She's done a really nice job for us and went into, I don't want to say a kind of a nervous situation around what had happened here last year, and she did a pretty exceptional job. So when we went through the interview process, she still stood out. So we hired her for a 3rd grade teacher. The news that I've been waiting to tell everybody is that we have signed a STEM teacher as well for next year. I had him write a small bio that I'm going to read. Jens Klubbard joins us to fill our STEM position at OTA. He brings with him a number of years of experience, which equates 28 years of teaching. Having taught science, STEM, and oceanography in both Seattle and San Diego, he holds a secondary single subject science credential, a K-8 multi-subject credential, and a master's degree. He has a passion for physical sciences and hands-on instruction. During his spare time, he has formerly been ranked a ranked rock climber, sponsored mountaineer, ski instructor, and is a PADI scuba dive master. Patty, I didn't know if I was supposed to say it or an abbreviation. I have no idea what that. Sorry. He relaxes by playing the piano at home, diving local kelp forests, and sitting on the beach. He is excited to be a part of the OTA team. Since July, when we started searching for the STEM teacher, I have identified what I would identify as two almost unicorns, people that I didn't feel like existed in our searches. He was one of them. All the feedback from everybody in the interview panel was, we need to go get this guy immediately. He was that exceptional. So as I told you back in August, how I felt about our hire, I'm telling you now that this is the guy. I'm very excited about this hire. So I do think that we filled that crunch that we've had this whole time. So I'm really excited to bring him on. And we are still going to have him, as I talked to him after he signed his contract. We're still going to have Taylor Vickers consult with him, even with 28 years experience. I think if he can slide in here and utilize some of the stuff that she had and understand how she was operating. So we're still going to use her as a consultant to start the year. But with his experience, I don't think we'll have to go probably much past a quarter of that consultant with the addition of like her lesson plans. So really excited to share that. So that only leaves us currently a kindergarten position open for next year. And we are diving into what that looks like here in the next couple of weeks. I hope to be able to tell you at the next board meeting that we have all positions for next year. Right. Any questions about any of that stuff?
So the third grade teacher that was a long-term fourth, that means our fourth grade teacher is coming back.
She is also signed NC.
That's been a word, just put it out there, which is huge. On the evaluations, it's 3 out of 4.
So yeah, it's only on 4. It's number 1 is I think what one.
Yeah, 5 now.
Yeah, it's like not like needs improvement. Number 2 is almost met standard. 3 is met standard, and 4 is above standard. So the average falls between 3 and 4 for us. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah.
Great news.
I know
Really good news.
I've been so excited to share this news. I'm going to share it at the gala as well as part of my speech to just kind of reel that in because I'm pretty excited. I want to shout it as much as I can. To the parent survey, John and I worked together. So part of my charge was to take that data, and now what am I going to do with that data? So just initial looks, things that I wanted to share with you. School safety, as we go into next year, the fencing is definitely something that we've been talking a lot about, trying to figure out how we can get that fixed because there are a lot of holes in our fence, a lot of bent fence, and so there are some hopeful repairs that we can work on with that. The gate locks, ensuring that those are operational and working to keep people out. We actually are getting ready to put up an additional camera that will be able to be viewed digitally from your cell phone within the school. So if there is something that happens with the school, it'll pop up on my cell phone, anybody else's cell phone that has access to it. That's about ready to go up here in the near future. But in addition to that, we are going to review cameras in general.
I'm sorry, where are those cameras?
So we're getting ready to put one. I've called it the eagle eye. It's going to basically sit from the office and look down at everything so that if there is anybody in, we would be able to pick it up on the camera and notify it. It's actually a donation that came from Mario. He had, came and did so many projects. He said, I want to donate this camera. I think it would help with some of this stuff. But that is something we're also going to review. Also next year, some of our concern this year, and it was some of it was reiterated in the drop-off policies, pickup policies, are any kids who walk on their own, they're gonna sign a waiver and they'll have a checkout with their teacher every day, so that we're know that they have that permission to be walking daily. And then the core content, one of the big things was STEM. We've got a teacher, we got a direction to go with that. So I know that was a lot of the feedback. So that one hopefully has already resolved itself in a lot of forms. The extra academic area, robotics and music did come up number 1, number 2. They are still going to be our focus. The goal for next year, and I'm confident at this point with some changes that happened in middle school scheduling because of physical education, as I shared, that was a big part of the way scheduling shifted this year. That law changed in, I believe, January for K-8 schools. So we don't have to spend so much time in PE now, and that's going to give back more time into the core curriculum. But I also think that's going to allow us to do robotics and music in a different way and get to that split that we've discussed many times. So I think robotics and music will be the goal to split in the future. Because Spanish and art, as we look at the budget and discuss the budget, seems further away for next year than it did even a couple months ago. As far as PBL, that 50-50 split on whether it was going to be during the day or in the evening, kind of the approach to that is either we may split it, we may have some during the day, maybe some in the evening. Also might include the teachers to kind of get a vote from them on what they prefer, since it was on the parents, and also the kids. Try to maybe a survey out to them just to kind of find out what they prefer as well, and just taking that data. So I think that one's kind of left out there right now, but it is something that we're going to look at. After school programs, we are going to examine the middle school options, but as Mr. C had shared in the past, that was a problem getting people to sign up. So we will look at that and hopefully be able to get some of these out and get a draw on certain middle school things on options for that. Communication, we're going to mainly stick with newsletters with the addition of text blasts. Recently, we found there's a problem with the text blasts / email process. It seems like that's the only time that multiple emails are sent out is when those are coordinated together. So I'm going to maybe take the emails off those text blasts so that we're not getting, I think, 20 emails. I think 20 email. I think two people got 20 of the same email. So trying to work through that to fix that problem. And I think the simple is we just leave out the email of that blast, and that won't happen because the ones that are coming from me are singular.
Yeah, I think we need to look at that in the selection of the list.
Right.
But yeah, some of the lists are more inclusive than others. And so if you choose a more selective, you choose a broader list. And then smaller lists, you are doubling up. Your
So like I'll often get yours and then it will send again from like for the 3rd grade. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like sending it for a 6th grade parent and a 3rd grade.
Yeah.
But it's the same email. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. My question is, because I've asked this question and I thought the full answer was it's not. When I send out my Friday email, do you get multiple Friday emails?
Yes.
You do get multiple Friday emails.
So many, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, see, my feedback up to now has been no, but it wasn't.
But you only-
get multiple on the other.
So you.
The other one is multiple. So when I've sent text messages, they've got multiple with the email.
I have 2.
So
So if I
you get
signed up
two.
to 2 email lists.
Oh, okay,
Then I'm
you're not
getting
getting,
double.
you're not like getting 7 or whatever. Like when he sent the thing
Last
last
week-
week, I got 7.
Yeah, but
Last week I
that
got
was.
She got 20.
Yeah, but
Okay,
that was through a different program of sending out.
Yeah,
That's what it-
but the Friday updates, you're getting one for each kid, is what you're saying.
Yep.
So newsletters and text blasts, retaining quality teachers. You know, the comments were about salary, and I think we're gonna at least have some discussions about that. And then involved activities and events. One thing that we're really gonna work on next year is we really do want to amp up volunteering. We are gonna have volunteer training as it's actually outlined in the student handbook, student parent handbook as volunteer training. So we are gonna set up a training so we can go over what that volunteer process looks like, and we can really refine it and make sure that you know, people understand how we can utilize them and what offerings there may be there. And then we're gonna continue to work with Cecilia and have our room parent meetings and work on those trainings, because she's had some meetings where I've met with the room parents, and I think that's been positive, so we will maintain those next year.
When you have the volunteer update, will you distinguish, because I think that is one of the items on
It
the
is, it's one of
list.
the last ones, a visitor versus a volunteer. We will definitely do that.
That will be
And it-
incorporated into the,
And I think the best part will be they have to be trained to be a volunteer, so we'll have a very distinct difference between the two.
great.
What do you do that? What's the extent of training? I mean, you gotta define.
I don't know what that looks like yet. It may be, we're gonna sit down and kind of shuffle through that. It may be even something that we work with the foundation on, but likely it'll be like an orientation. Come in and we'll talk about like, these are gonna be the volunteer opportunities, these are the expectations of the volunteer on campus, so on and so forth. And then certify, I don't really know if that's the right word, but like give them that volunteer status, and that should be the distinguishing mark at that point.
Yeah,
between the visitor
and just
volunteer.
to ease some, because I think this is gonna elicit some concerns. The question that was raised near the beginning of the year was to distinguish between a volunteer and a visitor, which would allow for a distinguishment between a volunteer, which we were hoping was gonna be a more restricted thing, that like, if you're going to volunteer within a classroom and be in a standalone position with children, there would be a different hurdle than coming on to campus to volunteer at, say, the jogathon or the gala or at a movie night, where you're not in a classroom specific standalone with children, that there would be some distinguishment to allow for the hurdles that we have right now that are very broad, that encompass all volunteers, are more significant than, say, at a San Diego Unified. They have different tiers. There's like an A, B, C, and D tiered volunteer, which allows for a more broad group of parents to come in without needing every hurdle of a TB test and a doctor's visit and I forget what the other items are that we need, but it would allow for a broader group to volunteer visit for more
Those
ad
two are
hoc basis.
distinguished right now.
We have
Volunteer
not
visit.
received a large update as,
Well, there are in the handbook. There is a difference between the volunteer and the visitor in the handbook.
it's not distinguished in usage at the school though. When a volunteer or a visitor can be utilized.
Well, part of it,
It is on there. It says what the difference is if you're going to have one-to-one contact with a student, or if you're coming onto campus for an event. There is a difference between the two. That's visitor versus volunteer.
But that's not what's in practice, I think is what we, and this has come up, I will tell you, this came up in the, September, October meeting.
probably August.
It was early.
Yeah, it was definitely.
And I know and maybe that gets lost in some of the shuffle, but I think to the discussion point, right? Saying you have to have a TB test to come volunteer for the jogathon doesn't make sense. And how do we get to where the handbook is what is dictating that is what needs to be done?
Well, and I think a hope of mine is also to train the volunteers on like what small grouping looks like, so that they can help out in the classroom with one kid or like 4 kids and reading stations and things like that, and really understand what they're trying to accomplish when they're there. So those are some of the hopes that I have.
Speaking of TV, we talked about this, but I will look up things and circle back to you with that for recommendations, because San Diego Unified doesn't actually require you to have a TB test to get
Right.
anyone. And so I don't think
change.
it changed 2 years ago, but we probably should update ours as well, because even healthcare workers are not required to have a TB test every year, so.
I think if I'm right, Sarah found the new discrepancy and sent it to me, and I think I sent an email out to say that changed, but that wasn't like a newsletter way long ago. Yeah, like way, I don't even know how dig through to find that, but I do think we made that.
There hasn't been a change on it, because I was asked recently. Anyway,
I think there was a message that may have changed it. Maybe in practice it wasn't changed. I don't know about that part. So those were just kind of some preliminary thought processes in the direction we're going to go with the surveys. And I'm still open to, kind of input from you guys as we get through all of the individual comments. And then the F and G are policies that I'm gonna put up in front of you guys and ask for votes on. First one, nutrition and wellness policy, it's just updating some things that need to be updated in there. And then G is the uniform complaint policy. With the uniform complaint policy, as you look at it, it has been kind of crossed out, so you can see what's being removed and what's been added, and then we'll make those final adjustments for the vote. But what did you actually see with it? Because there were some sweeping changes within it. We were pretty far off from what we needed to have as a uniform complaint policy. So kind of joining F and G together just to say that there's those policies in the back to look at. Nothing really glaring in F, but G did have major shifts, but they are all compliant with the law as this is now run through our lawyers to make sure that we are in, protected and in compliance.
That's right.
So, any questions about any of that stuff?
The nutrition and wellness policy, is there any big highlight changes you can just tell us?
No, there's really
Are we updating? What are we voting on?
basic, if I remember correctly. This is what Kathleen really helps me with in my policy stuff. So we grab at it. If I remember, it's like it's the wording. I want to say like the first paragraph of it.
There's a commitment to provide free of charge nutritionally adequate breakfast among for any student that requests a meal.
I think
I think the word, I think in the one before, it had like, it was describing special students. So like you're being reduced in the all of like your special.
It is that versus.
and now we're yeah,
Thank you for clarifying.
and so we just changed that language in the first, I think, literally the opening paragraph.
Second.
Yeah, it's like right there.
Perfect.
Sorry, any other questions for Devin? Just circling back to the elevator. I will say, for the record, this is something that Devin have been pushing for a while, so it is just sort of Murphy's Law that we finally said, okay, what's the drop dead date? Maybe it's the drop dead date, we got ahead of the drop dead date, and they're still not gonna make it. So we're gonna probably get some heat on Grandparents' Day for folks that aren't as mobile. Because we don't have an operable elevator, so we've already talked about, hey, can we do cones over on D? We do other things to try to, be a little bit proactive there. And Kate's helping to try to get that in motion. Just know we're trying, but the elevator thing just, as is typical in construction, is bad luck, and it's gonna take longer than we all were hoping. And what they had committed. And we don't have any remedies. I'm sorry, the elevator company. Advantages or anything.
Oh. I don't know the answer to that question. Would you like to see would you like to see that information? That'd be great to share some of that. Yeah, I saw the response on the other that we got to you today, and I felt good about that. So you might get an email with that in there tomorrow. It was like, I don't even know how long you had that. I mean, it was like 20 minutes, and you're like, well, I read through both of them, and
The last chairman of the board, occasionally came to me with some questions on documents.
well, I will be sending. I will probably be sending that to you tomorrow. Just
For only a little while longer.
find out. Well, there's consulting, right? There's still consulting, right?
All right, I'm gonna move into new business. Any further questions for Devin?
No, I'm gonna call Walker. Because he's having technical issues. Or we're hearing some screaming in the background because he's trying to wrangle all his kids right now.
That's the half-day discussion.
Yeah. Never seen more. Yeah, it's very.
I wonder if, like,
Hey buddy, you're on speaker. Mind your P's and Q's. We're gonna shift into the new business and the action items. Are you able to do that right now? Or are you tied up?
No, I'm got my attention.
Excellent. Okay. First item, approval of the regular and special board meeting minutes. First one is the March board minutes.
I had a small.
it's.
Secretary on secretary violence.
Is that, is it still?
The header says January board meeting for the March
See, John.
minutes.
Oh,
And it should
so
say-
I reset the one that had that had not January on it. So do we not maybe print that one? Remember you caught that one too.
I
and
caught,
then
no,
we
I
sent
got
it?
that one. Okay,
Right, rest assured that in
It
the
is
file that
changed.
Christian will update, it is the correct date.
The only thing.
So can we approve it with the caveat that it'll get cleaned up?
Well, it already says March.
It says on the file.
Okay.
It's just the one, it's one of the printed one.
All right, Chris, can I get a motion from you?
I will move to approve the March minutes.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, carries unanimously. April board meeting minutes.
Have a couple of comments on the April board minutes.
I'm so glad you looked through these so closely. Go ahead, hit me.
The date that's at the header on the April minute says the April 15th, it's
Oh,
actually the
okay.
19th. And I was present at the beginning of the board minute meeting, but I did not stay for the rest of the meeting, so I wasn't present for any of the votes, I was absent. So,
How shall I, because you're technically present.
I know present at
before.
the beginning, so you leave me as the president the first, but then on the votes, you have to.
Oh, I love it. It reflect you. Okay.
No.
No, I marked him as yes.
Mark me as the
But I mean, you just take one, you
You
just
just
take one off.
will be absent.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, no problem.
All right,
Got
should
it.
we make that update and we'll post it for next month?
I will, no, we can update it with the caveat.
Okay, we can to approve as modified.
Yes.
And I just did that.
Devin is seconding. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll actually abstain on that.
Because you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
Oh, so then who's gonna?
You can't like make a motion. can you?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Oh, you can motion but not vote?
You can
Yeah.
vote too.
Oh, I didn't know you
choose
could
to
do that.
vote
I didn't know
on-
you could motion and abstain.
Yeah, we had.
Abstention is technically a vote, right?
Okay,
I didn't know you
so
could.
there's not carried unanimously one abstention.
Gosh.
All right,
You're a very interesting man.
all right, approval of the check register.
What happened to this?
Yes.
It's incredibly difficult to read.
It's way different,
So
right?
I've got a lot of questions. If we may want to punt till next month, and I might be able to have my questions answered if they're in a different format.
It looks like it was supposed to print the other way.
Right.
Yeah, it was printed in.
Like landscape instead of photo.
So. Do you want to take the time for me to ask a bunch of questions about individual checks, or do we want to punt till next month? And
Punt till next
revisit
month.
them? I think the president spoke on that one.
They lost.
Mid yawn, I think he spoke on that one.
All right,
But, yes,
yep, fine.
got it.
Uniform complaint policy.
I will move to approve as written and updated.
I will second. All those in favor? Walker with a yawn. All right, carries unanimously. Moving on to item B, school nutrition and wellness policy.
I'll move to approve.
Chris?
Second.
Oh, I'm gonna give Walker the
Give
second.
it to me.
All in favor? Aye. Toby, you ready? Yeah, yep, all right, carries unanimously. And then last but not least, tremendous effort by Turner assembling the LCAP.
I motion to approve.
Oh,
Oh, you wanted his stuff. You wanted his stuff back. You stole it.
started.
No, please, I don't.
Make that second though.
I will, second.
Excellent. Okay, all those in favor of approving the LCAP. Beautifully assembled.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye, the vote carries unanimously. All right, with that, we are done with our main agenda. We're done with the open session. Thank you guys very much for coming.
Thank you. That is for everything.
Walker, I'll call you back when we get.
That's weird. It's still on.
Opening. I sent you a Google spreadsheet.
Good.
All right. Okay, coming out of closed session, there is something to report, and that is due to a lack of board involvement or ability to be at the next board meeting that was scheduled for June 14th. We are going to schedule a special board meeting on Tuesday, June 6th instead, so that we can have a quorum. So we will update accordingly, but the meeting will be Tuesday, June 6th. That was voted on unanimously during closed session.